Good afternoon, everyone. I think I can already say that. We have 1 minute before we start the session for real, but I think it is good to start one session a little bit earlier. And I have the chair of our steering committee and EUA President Michael Murphy with me. Michael, we're getting to the last session of our forum. So we're coming to the close and we're going to move to the hot potato of digitalization. Any thoughts before we give the floor to our speakers?
I guess it's very apt that we're doing this, Tia, because I'm sitting in a university in Cork in the south of Ireland, where we had George Boole as our professor of mathematics back in the 1850s. He wrote the laws of thought and created Boolean algebra on which all software and computers are based. And he, in fact, discussed thinking machines. We have letters about thinking machines from the 1860s. So yesterday, we had Joseph Aoun telling us all about the, I suppose in a way, the threats and the challenges arising from a digitalized world and how we stay ahead of robots. And we're now going into a session where we're looking at digitalization positively, how we exploit it. So I think it's a nice bookending of the forum to have those topics at the two ends.
Two ends, and a lot of food for thought in between. So let's head on and start our last session, and Michael will come back in the end to say the final words of the forum. So some practicalities, some of you have already gotten used to this, so if I can have the slide which shows the practicalities. By the way, I would be curious to know, and I will check it out after the event, who has been with us for all the sessions, who has had the stamina to do that. So anyway, we're, some practicalities. This session, as all the forum sessions, is being recorded, and all the participants will receive a link, direct link to the recording. But those who are not watching us live can also go to EUA YouTube channel and look for the recording over there. You have a couple of ways of interacting with us. You can use the chat box to make your greetings, as some of you are doing at the moment, and bring up technical issues or any other remarks if you want to discuss the contents. And then we have the Q&A section where you can post questions to the speakers, and please do so. At least in the other sessions, people have been very active in doing so. And you can put your thumbs up for the questions of other people if you think they are really nice and worth bringing up. And then finally, we will be poking your brain as well a little bit with a couple of polls asking you questions. And then there is also a handout section where you can find relevant documentation that our speakers or we at the EUA have been sharing with you related to the topic. This is the practicalities and ends my part at this point. Manel Jimenez Morales, who is one of the members in the EUA Learning and Teaching Steering Committee, will take over from here. So the floor is yours, Manel.
Thank you very much, Tia. Good afternoon, greetings from Barcelona. This is indeed the perfect circle of the forum this year. It is a pleasure to be with you today in this last session of the forum. We passed across the event accompanied by a nourished collection of stimulating and inspiring contributions, and we face now the closing panel before the concluding remarks. After speaking about skills, methodologies, research and transference, institutional collaboration and engagement, it's time now to deal with the opportunities of virtual learning, as Michael mentioned. So the session called Harnessing the Potential of Digitalization is revolving around the chances and the challenges of online education, from virtual learning, from teaching formats to open resources supported by libraries. The first speaker of the panel is Andrius Ustanavicius, offering a presentation called Learning to Tackle Sustainability Challenges in International Teams. Andrius is the head of studies of the Quality and Development Office in Vilnius University in Lithuania, the chair of the university, the European University Alliance named ARCUS, in the board of a student center frameworks for quality learning, and he's also the ex-president of Vilnius University Students' Representation. He is responsible as well for creating and implementing teaching and evaluation and continuous professional development system at Vilnius University, creating joint programs, innovative curricula, collaboration between academic staff, and fostering internal quality enhancement and the internationalization of the studies. Our second contributor is Daniel Perez del Prado with the presentation Teaching Sustainability and Decent Work Through MOOCs. Daniel is a professor at Carlos III University of Madrid in Spain. He's a PhD in law and also an economist. He's the author of 3 books and several articles on different topics, frequently analyzed from the interdisciplinarity perspective. And he's specialized in social law and labor economics. Daniel has participated in national and international conferences and meetings like the one we have today. He has taken part in a number of research projects and has carried out research stays at some of the most prestigious universities. Daniel is also an expert of the European Commission and the European Parliament. And finally, our last speaker is Cécile Viatek, with a presentation that has as a title, How Libraries of Higher Education Enhance Sustainable Teaching and Learning in Europe. Cécile is an academic librarian in France. She's the General Secretary at the French Academic Library Managers Association, abdu.fr. She's involved with skills, information literacy, pedagogical issues, and higher education digital innovation. She's a Liber Europe board member, and she's involved in OER with Spark Europe and with UNESCO, and joined the French Educase delegation in 2020. But before starting, and as Tia said, we'd like to suggest you a poll, just as maybe a catalyzer of some reflections and ideas. You can see it on screen. It says, do you think the experience of 2020 has highlighted more challenges or more opportunities associated with the digitalization of education? So we kindly invite you to answer the question and see what are your perceptions about the subject, what is your reflection on this subject. We have discussed a lot about that. We have discussed very much about if we had opportunities on that, or we had some difficulties to apply that, or challenges in the future. So it's time to answer this small question and briefly know your perceptions. You can see the results, or you will see the results of the poll in the closed section of the polls box. Now, for the moment, we have a 59% that think the possibilities are quite balanced. The challenges and the opportunities are quite similar. But it's true, we have had this discussion, especially we have thought about what we have learned about the pandemia and the conditions where we have been teaching and learning during all this process. So we have the results, 8% more challenges, 35% opportunities, and the 57% thinking that we have just as many challenges as opportunities, which is quite a balanced result. Okay, so I hope this poll helped us to warm up and especially to introduce the very interesting presentations we have. I would like to stress this, very interesting presentations, because they are. So please do not change the channel. Do not go to another video conference. This is the good one. We can start by Andrius, please, whenever you want. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi. As Manuel mentioned, I'm Andres, Head of Studies Quality and Development Department in Vilnius University. And trying to work the slides now. And I'm really happy to be able to present you our experience, hands-on experience that we had in creating a virtual exchange course together with the partners. Our path started as an Erasmus strategic partnership between University of Beg and University Lyon 3 and Vilnius University, with coordination of Knowledge Economy Forum and NGO working in Lithuania with different sustainability, innovation, educational issues, and who actually introduced us an idea of creating international internships where students, while doing their internships in different NGOs in different countries, could find their counterparts working on similar sustainability, environmental issues, and share experiences, how their countries deal with it, how the NGOs deal with it, and help each other and come up with common solution. And then Knowledge Economy Forum wanted to create tools to help students to implement these social innovations or whatever they create. And our idea shifted a little bit when we started working on that. When we gathered to the kickoff meeting in 2019 in Vilnius, we noticed that we have similarities between University of Bergen and Vilnius University, with the Bergen having international sustainable innovation course and Vilnius University having smart internship course based on design thinking methodology, based of problem solving of practical real life cases and real life problems provided by partners. That's how international team project was born. With the help of Erasmus virtual exchange training, our team created a practice-oriented course or a project inside a course. It's different in different universities, where students from different countries could work on the cases provided by case partners, case owners, that's organizations related to sustainability issues, and come up with the solutions. During this course, students take theoretical knowledge about teamwork, about innovation, about sustainability, design thinking methodology, about how to work in international teams, and so on. They are given the problem of the organization or the NGO, and together with the representatives from NGO, together in teams, in local or international teams, they try to come up with a solution. Skills that we are heading for is efficient work in teams, complex problem solving, implementation of innovations, intercultural communication, self-awareness, and so on. So basically, it's very similar to what we have in universities with hackathons, with other different activities where we go in partnership with the organizations. But what we tried to create here was try to implement the virtual exchange element or internationalization element, and the ability for students to change their experiences and help each other. So what we tried to create was flexible model of the course of this hackathon, spread through the semester, where different universities could adapt it and use it as an example for their course. And we created it as a basis for actually all the Arcus universities, the Arcus University Alliance, but everyone can take it and use it. So what we did, we had 3 different courses, with very, very different goals maybe, but they were adaptable and they could be upgraded with the international perspective. So we stole the model of Bergen's sustainable innovation course. We created the structure of the course, academic committee responsible for the goals of the course, and with representatives from faculty of different universities. We have case partners who offers us problems or give students problems to solve. We have mentors from the partner organizations who help and are the contact points in these organizations and help to the student teams to come up with the solutions. And we have student coordinators who actually work on everything and moderate the sessions with the students, are basically teachers in this course. And so this is really student-led and student-centered. So after having a structure, academic committee with help from student coordinators created these online modules, the theoretical modules, which is asynchronous and can be used can be used by universities or university or course, like the head of the course in different universities can choose not to use them or choose different ones. And then we created these synchronous sessions where all the students have to gather together, and that's basically what's the main part, where the internationalization and sharing of experience and virtual exchange is in place. These modules I mentioned are well directed to the competences I mentioned earlier: design thinking, communication, and so on and so forth. And that's how this works in practice. So at the beginning, students have intro of where they're participating. It's an elective in all the universities, I think. Instead of University Jean Moulin, it's the course in their study program. But students get an intro, then they have a European Innovation Race, the event where they get familiar with the methodology of design thinking, where they get familiar with each other, and where they go steps of all the course that are squeezed in one day workshop, where they work on easy problems just to get familiar with each other and with the design thinking methodology. Then they get back to their universities. The teams are created. Teams can be local in one university with a local problem. Teams can be international between two universities, between two students from two or students from three universities. It doesn't matter. They work on the problem in local or international teams. They come up with a solution, the initial solution. They have a synchronous session where everyone participates, everyone presents their solution, gets feedback from each other. Then they work further on with a solution, gets theoretical knowledge, get back to their course. They come up with a final prototype they will offer for the company, for the organization that provided the case. They get to near the end of the course, they get to another peer feedback session where all the students from all the universities participate again. All the solutions are presented. They are given feedback, experiences from other countries, the solutions, how to improve it. They improve their solution of the problem, and they present it in the final virtual conference where again everyone participates and they pitch their idea for their organizations. Later stage will be implementation of these ideas and selection of the best ideas, but we are not talking about it right now. And the best thing about it, that it's really the model that we created for this course, this virtual exchange course, is really flexible. It's up to the course, up to university, up in some cases up to the students on what level of collaboration will there be. They can just choose to participate in academic committee, take some of the courses of the asynchronous courses and participate in peer feedback sessions, and that's it. They can choose go all the way and have international teams working on global issues, global problems that are presented by global partners. It can be done very differently, even in the same project that we have. Our universities are involved differently in different semesters. When we pilot it in different semesters, we try to do that differently within different partners. And it's even possible to adapt to the differences in timetables of different countries. In one country, semester starts earlier, so that university usually takes up asynchronous modules and start with a theory, then go to a European innovation race and go to the practical solution. In other university, semester starts later. They start with the European innovation race and then go with the theoretical knowledge after that. You can choose not to take any theoretical modules and participate in these practical solutions. It's very different, but it's very adaptable to different organizations. And just very shortly about European innovation race, it just happened a little bit more than a week ago. So the event where all students participated, they were given simple, well, not simple problems, but the not that complex problems to try methodology, design thinking methodology with. They were given 1 day to do that, different sessions where they were provided with a design thinking methodology, the steps of it. They went through the steps in international teams between each partner. So it was more like a hackathon with a goal to get familiar to each other and get familiar with the methodology, and not the goal to come up with the best solutions. But during this thing, so students in these teams came up with ideas for apps, for collaborative spaces in universities, for programs in universities to help high school graduates choose studies that would be most suitable for them, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so European Innovation Race, then we'll have, again, while piloting during this semester, we'll have peer feedback sessions, we have international and local teams working on the problems, and just a short couple of words about the lessons that we learned. To be honest, it's very technical, and you can think that you'll come up with these problems, but you never do when you never do until you try to implement something. The digital communication tools are an issue, what to choose, how to choose, and all the problems we have with that. The schedules are the issue usually, how to communicate, and the small cultural differences in partnerships with organizations, in partnerships inside the universities, or even the thing that we call student-led in Norway is completely different than in France. So you know, the examples of students actively participating and actively creating the course in Bergen is completely different than in Vilnius, you know, and one university is used to that and the other is not. So you really need to look into that, and we really hope that in the final guidelines and in the final methodology we'll tackle all the issues and suggest more of the recommendations to tackle all these technicalities. But so yeah, that was a great experience, and actually COVID, well, it helped us and it didn't. We really wanted, as partners, you know, we really wanted to get together to work on it, to brainstorm on it physically. But after, you know, trying and using all the digital tools and seeing the possibilities they create, we saw that this course can be implemented in very different study programs, in different courses, in different universities, and it is really adaptable, and that's what we are heading for, the flexibility, adaptability. And if anyone wants further information on that and join us, you are welcome to contact us. So, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Andreas, thank you very much. Well, I promised interesting presentations, and we have a proof of that. Now it's time for some questions. As Tia said, you can send the questions to the Q&A box. So please do that. Don't be shy. We don't like shy people because we learn from your questions. So please, you can address any query you have about the presentation. First of all, we have more than a question. We have well, actually, yes, it is a question from Christian Freisleben. He's asking if there is a link or a handout with more details of the presentation. We can provide it, and we are recording as Tia mentioned at the beginning. That you'll have the whole presentation, and obviously, Andrews, I guess you'll be happy to provide that. While you are sending the questions to the Q&A box, I would like to ask you what difficulties you found between the universities in order to implement a joint program, because sometimes, well, you are conducting this European Alliance with ARCUS, but sometimes the ideas are very good, the projects are really appealing, but then the countries, the universities in their own country have some problems to implement these ideas. So I don't know if you can summarize more or less the most typical problems you had when trying to apply that. Thank you.
Yeah. As I mentioned, that there are cultural issues, there are regulatory issues, and so on. And I'm not sure, you know, when you work on joint program, you usually, well, you have some, you know, joint activities, but basically a student is the one who travels around and gets to the culture of different countries. And it's, even though it's a, well, bigger chunk of things to think about. And in this case, when you're trying to work on a joint course, that means that everyone has to agree on its content and everyone has to be involved. So yeah, you know, the biggest challenge is to overcome the traditions that we have of how courses can be implemented. As I mentioned, in the first meeting we had, during the dinner, we tried to discuss of how this student-led thing can go on, how students can be main people responsible for the implementation of the course, and the reactions were very different. Couple of us were very happy. Couple of professors said, no, students have to, be students. Teachers are the ones who teach, not students are the ones who teach. So these cultural differences, they really, where you have challenges. But as I mentioned, the COVID is a problem to solve that, but you need lots of discussions, and these discussions are going in circles mostly, but after hours and hours of talking and of finding, the best way for everyone, you come up to the solution. You just need to stick to talking and trying to find these things. But yeah.
Thank you very much for your complete answer. We have time for a quick question about what would you change if you could change something on the program for the future? If you can answer briefly to this question, please.
Yes. What we have now actually is, even though the model is very flexible, but that does not create that many opportunities for students to work together. So what we are trying to change and head for is the creation of international teams. Now, in our case, most of the teams are local and they're working inside the university, and they get together only in these synchronous sessions. What we are heading for is more integration, actually, and trying to maybe to leave students a little bit more autonomous, learning for their synchronous modules by themselves, and maybe sometimes, not getting into the schedule of the semester of the university, but working together more, maybe in a year or something, to expand it. But basically what we are heading for, and what I really would appreciate if we would be able to integrate this international experience much more.
Flexibility, I think it's a common claim from universities. Thank you very much. We'll have more time to discuss with you at the end of the session. Now it's time for our next panelist, Daniel Pérez del Prado from Carlos III University. Thank you very much, Daniel. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Manel, for your presentation, and thank you so much for this kind invitation. I'm very happy of representing Carlos III University in this amazing seminar. As I'm going to speak about teaching SDGs, and particularly decent work through MOOCs, massive open online courses, and this is a tool which is mainly audiovisual, I would like to start with a little video concerning what we are doing right now, and then I will use my presentation for the details. This is what we are doing, and as I said, now I would like to give you some extra details. This is the agenda. First of all, the origin of this project, the Oers Cooperation Group, then some details concerning the first MOOC, moving towards sustainable work, and finally the current one, the one that we are now preparing, Escuela de Trabajo Decente, Decent Work School. Concerning the cooperation group, the cooperation group is a team formed not only by researchers and professors, but also by staff of the university, which is focused on developing cooperation projects. These kind of projects focus not only on research and teaching, but in other type of cooperation activities. For example, the last one was a project concerned providing assistance to a trade union in Colombia, precisely to apply decent work, to provide them tools to achieve decent work in that country. As it's mentioned in the video concerning the researchers, we are an interdisciplinary team formed mainly by lawyers, economists, and sociologists. And in the last time, we are paying attention to the 2030 agenda, and particularly the SDG 8, which is the one focused on decent work and economic growth, because we think that it is the most important one in order to provide well-being and decent life conditions for everybody. Taking into consideration all these elements and our experience in the cooperation group, we started by creating our first MOOC, moving towards decent work. As it was mentioned in the video, the number of students is increasing a long time. We started with around 700 students, then 1,000, then 2,000, and hopefully we'll go further this limit this year, 2001. And the geographical origin of these students are very varied. Actually, the first country in providing students is India, the second one is the United States, and then Spain. That we have, as you can see here, students from all over the world. And concerning the prototypical students would be a woman who is between 26 and 40 years old and with higher studies. And this is something which is quite curious for us because the level of the MOOC is an intermediate level, but nevertheless, it seems that it's very interesting for people even with higher studies. The course is focused obviously on the SDG concerning decent work, but there are obvious connections to other SDGs, such as the end of poverty, the 5 gender equality, the 10 reduction of inequalities, etc. The course is divided in 5 modules. You can see here in this slide the content of these modules. First of all, digital economy. Secondly, robotization. Thirdly, diversity management and equal opportunities. Fourthly, protection against poverty. And finally, safety and health in new forms of work. And then each module is divided in different submodules with more detailed content, practical activities, etc. I will give you some extra details in using our second MOOC. It is completely free except for the certificate. If the student wants to obtain a certificate, it must pay a little fee to the edX platform. And taking into consideration the success of our first MOOC, we decided to launch a second one. And the base of this second one was the project that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, the one that we did with a trade union in Colombia. Here you can see one of the results, a little book guide with some basic tools concerning the achievement of decent work in that country. Now we decided to turn our results from that project into a new MOOC focused on providing legal tools and practical tools to achieve decent work in the company. And now, as it was mentioned in the video, in Spanish and especially for the Latin American audience. Here you can see our new logotype and the main purpose focused on, I have to insist in it, achieving decent work in the company and in this course in Spanish. Here you can see the different contents of the course, strategies for decent work from an international perspective, for eradicating poverty or forced labor, for managing diversity, and for the formalization of employment. That means that we are taking into consideration all kinds of countries and the different levels of development and welfare states in the different countries in Latin America. Its module is divided in these points. First of all, a little introduction concerning the video, the content of the module. Second, the video, which is the most important teaching tool. It contains the most important information. You saw some of the videos, part of the videos in the video at the beginning of this presentation. The basics, that is a little summary of the most important content. Then the practical activities. There are very, very different practical activities in each module, such as matching different concepts, providing open answers, even some forums just to discuss some basic ideas. And the last point is to learn more additional information for those who need extra information or go into more details areas. Each module is divided as the previous one in 5 sub-modules, and there's a closing test at the end of the whole module. This test is only available for those who wants to achieve the final document concerning the development of the course. And finally, some images just to show you that we are still working in this MOOC, in this new course. Hopefully it will be ready in spring, and particularly around the mid of April. And we hope we achieve a high number of students such as in the previous one. And that's all. Thank you very much. Here I'm showing you also my colleague Maria Teresa, who is in charge of this course. And you have my email and my Twitter. But before using my email and my Twitter, I'm very happy of answering your questions and comments.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti.
To send questions, as Daniel suggested. I would like to make you note also that Andrew sent his email as well in the chat in case you want to contact him. But now it's time to answer the questions raised during the presentation that Daniel provided to us. Rene Coors is asking where we can find the video, if it's on the platform, if it's on EDX, or it's in Carlos III platform. Could you precise that, please?
Yes, well, Carlos III platform contains all courses launched by Carlos III, but then you can find it also in EDX platform. So both ways are valid.
Okay, thank you. And a very quick question from myself. Sorry to take advantage of that, but I found it very interesting. And I would like to know, as it is a very constructive learning system, when we are talking about MOOCs, we are having that in mind. And you have this international approach. Did you find some differences when dealing with the specific issues regarding to the SDG, differences between countries, especially approaching practical activities, etc.? Could you expand a bit on that, please?
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. That is actually one of our main concerns, and one of the points that we learned from the previous course, from the one in English. That there are very, very different situations in different countries, that there are common problems, but also very, very different problems. And providing a general approach is the key for the success, at least from our point of view, for the success of the course. And this is a point that we try to highlight in the second one in Spanish. As you could see in the content, we are trying to show in the course all kinds of situations, because in Latin America, the situation of each country concerning working conditions are very, very different. And that's the idea. Try to think about everything, not only the perspective of your country or the countries of the team members, but particularly the different situations of the audience that you are focused on.
Great, thank you very much. There are some other questions, but if I may, I would like to suggest to pass to the last panelist and leave some minutes to have a small dialogue between you three and answer these questions that you raised during the conversation. Okay.
Okay. Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you. So it's time for Cécile Sviatek. As I said, she's coming from the Association of Directors and Managers of Libraries in France. Thank you very much, Cécile. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, first of all, Thank you for inviting me at this panel. I'm delighted to be speaking here today on behalf of academic librarians involved with open education, either at the European level with Parc Europe and in France with ADB, the French Association for Academic Libraries. My name is Cécile Sviatek. I'm library director in France in Université Paris-Nanterre. And today we will see why and to what extent it can be a strategic move for a higher education institution to include academic libraries in its policy process for openness in general, open education and open educational resources, we will say OERs in particular. Libraries are setting the default to open generally, and they accelerate openness and sharing culture within the academic world for the benefit of everyone, and especially for the clear benefit of academia and higher education institutions. Academic libraries are collaborative bodies. They help build strong policies. They design sustainable models, and they build long-lasting and evolving infrastructures. Above that, libraries follow effective standards and norms. So it means that they help knowledge reach all kinds of publics, whether they are local, national, European, or global. With open access, as you can see on the slide, it's done. With open science, it's ongoing. With open culture and open knowledge, it's ongoing too. With open data, it's emerging. But what about open education and OERs? So this is our question for today. You will see appear in the chat box or it's in the handouts a link toward the study that is here on the slide by Parc Europe and entitled Open Education in European Libraries of Higher Education. It's totally open and on Zenodo. Open education and OERs cover a large range of pedagogical methods, contents, and practices, and they are not easy to manage. The OECD Center for Educational Research and Innovation wrote in 2007, a few years ago, in its foreword, in its report, Giving Knowledge for Free, the Emergence of Open Educational Resources, that, and I quote, the development of the information society and the widespread diffusion of information technology gave rise to new opportunities for learning. At the same time, they challenge established views and practices regarding how teaching and learning should be organized and carried out. Higher educational institutions have been using the internet and other digital technologies to develop and distribute education for several years, yet until recently, much of the learning materials were locked up behind password, with proprietary system unreachable for outsiders. The OER movement aims to break down such barriers and to encourage and enable freely sharing content. So that was in 2007. I will provide you right now with some links in the chat box, complementary ones, that refer to papers and to registries that are related to open education and OER policies. So in case you are looking for some inspiration or you are building at this moment your own policy, maybe you want to check on that and have a look there. You can also find these resources in the longest video that we shot for EUA Learning and Teaching Forum, and you can find it on the YouTube channel. I will put it also in the chat right now, so you can find it and refer to it if needed. By the way, before we go further, I have a little question to ask you, because this is an assembly of participants that are aware of open education and open educational resources, that are involved in learning and teaching. So maybe we can take a quick poll together to see where we are at today with open education and OERs. So please refer to the poll section and submit your answer. Is your institution building an open education or OER policy or strategy? So we can see this is anonymous who already have a policy or strategy settled at an institutional level, who is currently designing it, or who is intending or maybe not intending to get involved with OE and OER. So we can wait a short moment until all participants can answer the question, and the results can be seen. Maybe right now we can do this under the closed section under poll. And we can see what are the trends. Well, that's interesting because we have almost 25% of the people who do not know. It's interesting because we are all aware of this and involved in learning and teaching. So I will provide you some information about the study and the questionnaire, the question set we used, and maybe you can try it at your university to assess where you are at. But there is a general trend pushing forward to addressing this challenge or these issues, open education, open educational resources, and creating and building a policy. And we know how important it is to have a policy before any action plan. With teaching and learning in a digital world where education is a challenge because it's a competition for success, actually sharing content and practices is a powerful path toward both student success, local competition, competitivity, and more generally, a more ethic academia and a better society, providing open access to education, academic education, relation to society and citizenship. So what are the benefits of OE and OERs? You can see them appear here on your screen in a nutshell, and they are very clear. You can find them developed in the longer video, which link I circulated at the beginning of this presentation in the chat box. How do European higher education library networks enhance sustainable teaching and learning by addressing open education and OER in a European perspective? Well, you can see here the one-of-a-kind study led by Spark Europe, published in June 2020. It's based on a survey analysis, and it gains insight into open education policy and practices within academic libraries in Europe. For my part, the major conclusion I personally take from it is that by addressing OE and OER issues with the libraries as trusted partners, higher education institutions have a remarkable way ahead of them to enhance open and sustainable teaching and learning in order to innovate and to shine. There are some recommendations you can see that were provided. You can see it at the end of the table of content. As it is stated here on the slide, their relevance depends on where you are in the life cycle of open education offering, and we saw that it is diverse. Nevertheless, it clearly appears that higher education needs to get more involved with policy building and funding OE and OERs if there is a genuine will to address this field of action. So that's what I was talking about. If you want to take the survey to assess your action, maybe you can try and translate those questions first intended for academic libraries to your local realities. And many questions are optional, so it can give you a trend if you wish. I will conclude with the actions within the network. You know that Open Education Week will start within a few days. Here is an invitation for French speaking, because that's an issue. The language is an issue, to a webinar with UNESCO guests. And we asked some institutions to present their strategic vision on OE and OERs and detail the role that academic libraries will play in their policy and action plans. So I will stop with this invitation. I will put this in the chat box also, and I'm ready to answer any kind of questions and detail the study if you wish so. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Cécile. Thank you very much for your presentation. So as Cécile encouraged, we can send our questions to the Q&A box. For the moment, we have one. It is, where online library services fit for purpose during the pandemic? It is actually a double question. We have this one on one side, and on the other side we have what was the experience of students during the pandemic? So maybe we can associate both questions.
Okay, I will answer mainly saying that there were already some papers and presentations that were given about the embedding of academic libraries documentation, but above all services, into the digital environments during the pandemic. It took three forms, mainly. Open access to documentation was the first one. Either it is under license or open science documentation. The second thing was the services, the general services. How do you embed training for information literacy, for example, into the curricula? And that was really important. Or provide researchers with a support for data curation, for example, online, to avoid the clouds and personal things. And the third thing that was really important, for example, in the United States for economic reasons, but in Europe for social reasons, was the link that libraries help maintain between students and the institutions. Because in some countries, academic libraries stayed open, or they provided click and collect services, for example. So there was, at the same time, a physical service and a strong integration into the curricula online with trainings, yes. If you're interested, maybe more with the US, Canada vision, there is a strategic partnership between EDUCO's, ARL, Academic Libraries, Research Libraries Association, and CNI. And there was a very good paper by Scout Calvert from ARL about how libraries manage within a pandemic environment with new emerging technologies. And this is CC BY. You can find it on the web. I don't know if that answered the first question, and maybe the second.
Yeah, well, I think it was perfectly answered, or at least it was very insightful and made us reflect on the subject. Thank you very much. I would kindly invite the two other speakers to join us. We have 3 minutes left, and if we don't have, I know we have some specific questions, but maybe we can address them online, talking about digitalization to the three speakers. And I would like to finish like the moment when we started this panel. So asking about the opportunities or challenges of this pandemic situation. What is your point of view, very briefly, and why do you think we have more challenges or opportunities? We actually have talked in this panel about new formats through digitalization to reach a global audience. I think you three had that in common. So maybe we can expand a bit our perception on challenges or opportunities and finish like when we started. Do you want to keep the same order? Do you want to start, Andreas, please?
Yeah, I can. Thank you for a great question. I voted for opportunities just a month ago, maybe. And why? Just a month ago, I think I've noticed the letter from March 2020. It was from email from one of the deans of how to organize the meeting of the deans, and he said, "Oh, we have this." Software called Microsoft Teams. We could use that. We use that in our faculty and so on. And the dean of the faculty said, we have something similar to that, and now everyone knows what Microsoft Teams is. Everyone is using it. So that's the opportunity. At least we struggled in universities to force people to get familiar with these tools. Now they're definitely familiar. The main challenge is actually now to repeat every time we can. It's not a quality online learning what we are doing here, or online teaching. It's just a crisis, and we are dealing with a crisis with ICT tools, and that's it. That's not a quality online learning. You need much more time to prepare, you need much more help, and so on and so forth. But basically, now everyone knows the basics. Everyone is not afraid to use these things for meetings, for lectures, and so on. What we need to do now is have the pedagogical content-wise support for teachers. And so yeah, I see a lot of opportunities. The main challenge is for everyone to understand that it's definitely not online or blended learning that we are doing here. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andrius. Very quickly, Daniel.
Very quickly. One of the lessons we learned during the pandemic is that online teaching is a complement for the face-to-face teaching. And our MOOC doubled just in the last year, and it is not going to substitute what we are doing, but it's really a very good complement, and it broadens the students that we can meet and the interrelations with them.
Thank you very much. Also a very good conclusion. Cécile, your point of view. Thanks.
Yes, my point of conclusion will be that there is, in my opinion, no better way to move forward than to move with an interprofessional or cross-university vision. From the first design to the assessment of action. So I like collaboration. I think so.
Good conclusion. Brilliant. Thank you very much. I like collaboration. It could be our slogan. Okay, so thank you very much indeed to the three panelists for such a meaningful session. Thank you as well to all of you who has been behind the screens participating in this conversation and giving us the warmth and the support despite the circumstances. And a third and very heartily thank you to the European University Association and its team for this wonderful, I would say, terrific organization of the forum. It has been a pleasure to chair this session. Now it's time to leave the floor to Tina, again, before announcing the concluding remarks of the event. So thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you, Manel, for a fascinating session. I certainly learned a lot, and I hope that everybody else did also. In fact, that's true of every session for the past 2 days. And it's very clear to me that we have made a lot of progress since 2015, when SDGs were adopted at the United Nations. But it's also clear from the discussion that we have a lot to do to meet the goals. I'm most impressed by the students because clearly they have bought into the agenda. I think surveys show over 90% of students regard this as the most important global agenda for all of us, and they have the most invested in a healthy planet and a healthy society. Not quite so sure that the universities have done as much as we need to do. We've seen over the last 2 days a lot of innovation, a lot of exciting approaches from different institutions across Europe, but it will take the work of every university to ensure that society thrives as it needs to over the coming decade or so. So in your home university, there must be a strategy emphasizing the primary importance of the SDGs. There must be champions among the senior leadership, and especially we must have the students in the leadership roles alongside academic staff. They're the best champions of all. We've had a lot of talk about the need for staff upskilling and curriculum reform and societal partnership and entrepreneurship. So in a way, we are reimagining the university. And that then allows me to suggest something to you, that if you have a spare moment later today, go on the EUA website and you'll find a very important document, which is called Universities Without Walls, published only 10 days ago, where we have set out a blueprint or a vision for Europe's universities up to 2030. So it's important that every academic and student in Europe reads that document. So finally, over to some thank yous. Thank you for being with us and for your questions and your comments and chat. Thank you to our wonderful speakers, and especially those who were in the thematic peer groups for the past year. Thank you to the session chairs, colleagues on the Learning and Teaching Committee with me at EUA. And a big thank you to Tia and to Helene Peterbar and your colleagues at the Secretariat. You can stop taking the Valium. There's only 1 minute left for technical problems. But it's been a wonderful job. Everything has been recorded. Everything can be reviewed online. And there's a survey. And this one is very important because it's our first online forum, a whole new experience. And the key question, should future fora be redesigned to be online, face-to-face, or hybrid? But that's very important, and please do give us some guidance. Next year will be live, at least face-to-face. It will be in Bilbao, because once again, the University of Duesta has very kindly invited us a second time. And I do hope to see you all next year, healthy, sane, and vaccinated. So in the meantime, be champions of sustainability and think about it for the coming weekend, which I hope you will enjoy, and see you all next year in Bilbao. Thank you very much. Au revoir and goodbye to everybody for a year.